Welcome to Shingyo Temple sermon program. And we are continuing stories of Buddha. And we try to find if we can learn something from his story. Let me tell you his statement. I left my family to find the way to eliminate sufferings. Elimination of the sufferings would let me achieve the final salvation. I practiced both torturing style practice and simplified practice for 6 years. I could not still eliminate the sufferings after all. So after 6 years of practice, he said, well, I still couldn't eliminate sufferings. I still couldn't achieve the final salvation. From this statement, what we can learn? The first of all, we could see Buddha got right ideas about sufferings and final salvation. He said elimination of sufferings will let him achieve the final salvation. It is correct statement. We try to eliminate, minimize and eliminate suffering as much as we can. What this means? In the previous sermons, we are talking about sufferings. Sufferings are changing subjects. If something changes, that will create sufferings. And especially, these changing subjects will be so suffering if we want to control it, if we want to stop the change. Because we will not be satisfied if we try to control something that we can't control. We are expecting impossible, but we don't know why. That means we are not really seeing the truth. So in this sense, first of all, we have to accept sufferings, accept changes, and we try not to influence, control something we can't control. That means we have to have a tolerance, we have to have a mercy, we have to put ourselves on the middle path. Then also we should focus on the subject that will never change, which is the nothingness. That's why we really have to focus on purification of the consciousness, because consciousness it will be identical to the nothingness. If you can be identical to the nothingness, you actually achieve the final salvation. Unfortunately, we are still having body and mind. So we have 3 subjects: body, mind, and consciousness. Consciousness is a part that we can make it identical to the nothingness. So we should purify it. But body and mind, we really have to take care of these stuff, because these are subject to be influenced by. So we try to minimize suffering for the body and mind. We try to eliminate suffering by purifying our consciousness. That is the way. So Buddha is correct by saying that elimination of suffering will let him achieve the final salvation. But approaches, practice of the Buddha were wrong. He will notice this mistake later on. So he actually spent 6 years to do very extreme ways of practice, torturing style or simplified practice. The torturing practice damages your body and mind. So how can you maintain your condition to actually purify the consciousness, to let consciousness be identical to the nothingness, if you have damaged body and mind? At the same time, if you simplify, you just go for easygoing type of practice, you simply ask somebody to save yourself, you are not really purifying your consciousness. So it is normal for you, if you're doing the simplified practice, it's normal for you that your consciousness will not recognize the nothingness, because your consciousness is not purified enough. Now, having said that, what is the real problem here? The Buddha was missing the very basic approach, the middle path. Instead of going to extreme practices, he should put himself in the middle, which is the right practice. he's supposed to focus on taking care of his life. That means taking care of his three subjects so that he can actually minimize suffering for body and mind. Then he can purify consciousness so that he can actually eliminate suffering for the consciousness. So he maintained the practically zero suffering by optimizing the conditions of the three subjects. In order to maintain such optimum conditions, you can't go for a simplified practice. You can't go for torturing practice. You have to take care of yourself so good. You do the right things, right actions in everyday life. That's why the pre-sectarian Buddhism always focusing on the right practice in everyday life. Don't go anywhere. This is the place you have to see you live, because this is the place sufferings are all around you. You can't run away from the sufferings. You stay here. You do right actions to minimize the sufferings by taking care of your body and mind. At the same time, you try to eliminate suffering by purifying your consciousness. This is the bottom line of the right practice. And this story is exactly telling us that Buddha noticed the right things. Elimination of sufferings will let him achieve the final salvation. Not only that, he gave us a lesson that don't go extremes. Stay in the middle path. Stay in your everyday life. Then you do right things, right actions, right thinking, right understanding, right reflection, just like a Buddha did in the future. He basically told us, don't do extreme practices, because after 6 years, he couldn't make it, you will not make it. Do the right practice. Respect the middle path. Be tolerant. Okay? Be merciful. Be mindful. And taking care of your body and mind. And purify your consciousness. That's the only way to achieve the final salvation. And it should be done in your everyday life. This story was very good. We learn from his failures. So let's make our appreciation to the Buddha, because he made a mistake for us, so we could learn from him without mistakes like he did. Thank you very much for listening. May the Buddha be with us all.